Well, comedian James Mullinger played to a sold-out crowd in Montreal this week. Originally from London, England, Mullinger has made a career out of pointing out the differences he notices since moving to the Maritimes.
It's even worse in the rural areas. I was trying to find a gig in Sussex about 6 months ago. I got lost. I asked someone for directions, and I swear to God, word for word, he says to me, go to the end of this road and turn left at the tree where Donny crashed his bike in '78.
The award-winning stand-up settled in St. John, New Brunswick with his family 5 years ago, and his career took off. His shows now sell out across the country. His Almost Canadian tour has just earned him a Canadian Comedy Award nomination, and he brought it to Théâtre St. Catherine this week. I sat down with him ahead of the show. Here with James Mullinger just ahead of his show. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did.
Mullinger, did I?
Yes.
Because Mullinger, you never know.
I know, no one ever gets it right, so thank you.
Kudos to me. So why the move from St. John's, New Brunswick to, from London, England to St. John's, New Brunswick? Why would you do that?
First of all, I must correct him. It's St. John, not St. John. I get very annoyed about that.
Pardon me, yes.
And I only point it out because the St. Johners get very angry.
You have to. You're a good St. John.
And it is absurd that the two places have almost identical names. Yes. I don't know why it is. But essentially, it was a quality of life decision. We obviously loved our lives in London, but had our second child and wanted to live in a friendlier place, a happier place, a place where you didn't have to pay, £2 million to live in a shoebox. We wanted to live in a place where you could, buy land and live by the water and enjoy that for 79 cents. We just thought this was the perfect move to make. And I guess we kind of thought, we're at the stages of our careers where we can do what we do anywhere. Now, right. Of course, that's, that is quite a push and an ambitious thing to do, but we decided to make that step and did it, and thank God we did.
It worked out for you. You've been in Canada for 5 years and you've done so many incredible things. Right. Tell me about this latest tour, this Almost Canadian tour that you're on.
Thank you. Yeah, so 5 years in, I basically, I'm almost Canadian. By that I mean I'm studying to be a Canadian. I'm sure you know what that means. That basically means learning the answers to questions that no Canadian could ever answer.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That's basically the. I have a permanent residency card, but I'm in the process now of. And so essentially, what this tour is about is things I've learned in the 5 years of living here, my identity, but also the fact that I'll probably be Canadian before I'm actually considered a New Brunswicker. Like that's the thing that I aspire to be. But it's it's not as easy as becoming a Newfoundlander, where you just turn up and kiss a fish and drink a horrible drink or whatever it is, right? But to be a New Brunswicker, you have to earn the right over a couple of decades. So
it's going to take you some time.
Yeah, it's taken me some time. I have to learn to do things like drive four-wheelers on highways the wrong way. Like I have to learn skills like that. I have to start wearing head-to-toe camouflage just to go to Tim Hortons to get a coffee. Right? Those are the things that I need to do. So becoming a Canadian is definitely much easier.
Your wife was a native New Brunswicker,
yes,
right?
Indeed.
So she fits in perfectly well, but they haven't accepted you quite yet.
Exactly. Like people have been very welcoming, very warm. There's no question that these 5 years living in New Brunswick have been the best 5 years of my life. I truly believe, Canada as a whole is the best place in the world to bring up a family. But for me, there's nowhere like New Brunswick. And it's always just amazed me that it wasn't more on the world map. Although that said, we don't necessarily want it to be. Because now with Brexit happening and then friends in America going, oh my God, James, what are we doing? They're all starting to look at my life in New Brunswick and say, maybe we should make a move. I'm like, no. Like, the reason New Brunswick's so awesome is that you can go months, if not years, without making physical contact with another human being that you're not choosing to make physical contact with. It's an amazing thing, this kind of expansive space. And being able to, I am becoming a New Brunswicker a bit in that I'm already becoming that person who, in London it would take me about an hour and a half to drive a 5-minute drive. About the same as it is in Montreal right now with these kind of incredible construction. It looks like the end of Avengers Endgame has literally exploded in the streets just outside here. But now I'm on the highway, going into St. John from the little town I live just outside, and I'm saying to my wife, oh my God, it's a nightmare. There's 2 cars in front of me. Right? I've become that person.
It's happening. It's happening. Yeah. You love Montreal. Most comedians love Montreal. Yes, you're performing tonight. We're pre-taping this. Tell me what you're expecting from the Montreal crowd tonight.
Well, what I love so much about Montreal always is that, for me, since first coming here 15, 20 years ago, is that it's my Vegas. It's the place that I come to have a good time. Even when I would come here from London, the people are the nicest, the people people party the hardest, but most importantly for a comedian, it's the comedy mecca. I mean, you look at the kind of the legends of comedy that come here, that flock here every year, which means that Montreal audiences are, without question, the most comedy-savvy audiences. And this is why it was so important for me to come here on this tour. And it's one of those things like, yes, I can obviously sell a lot more tickets if I perform in Atlantic Canada or potentially in Toronto. But coming here is so important because it's one of those things that it's a badge of honor almost. And it's that thing where, it's a real true test of the material if Montreal audiences enjoy it, because every single summer they watch dozens, if not hundreds of shows featuring the best comedians in the world.
Well, I think that they're going to enjoy it. You're recently nominated for a Canadian Comedy Award for this tour. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did that feel to get that recognition?
Well, great, because again, I mean, it's very nice to live in such a welcoming country. And again, I mean, certainly in the UK, I'm not disparaging all English people. However, it isn't the most welcoming place in the world. If people hear an accent that isn't like their own, they're not going over to them and saying, "Oh, wow, where are you from?" That's exactly what you do in Canada. And similarly, I don't know how much other countries would be so welcoming of a performer coming in. And it was a real joy for me to be embraced not only by the comedy community but by comedy fans here. And again, I mean, there would be people that might say, why should this Brit that swanned in get this Canadian Comedy Award nod? Well, no one said that, and that says a lot about this country. Maybe they have behind closed doors, of course. I'm well past the stage of ever wanting to search my own name on Twitter to read any abuse. I'm past that. However, yeah, it definitely does mean a lot. And it means a lot also because, when I moved here, there were people that said, you can't go to New Brunswick and continue your career as a comedian. And my dream was that I would be able to come here and just about scrape away a living at it. The thing that never crossed my mind was that it would end up kind of exceeding what I was doing in England. And things were going well enough in England. I could sell out a theatre, but to come here and start playing arenas and that kind of thing was not on the priority list. And I think so sometimes I'm not a self-helpy type of person, but I guess the fascinating thing about it is that my whole life I've made kind of these decisions in my life based on ego and career. What's the best thing for me and my career? It was the first time I ever kind of said, what's the best thing for my wife and children? And that thing was moving to New Brunswick to give them a better life. And it's quite an interesting thing that the first time I stopped chasing this kind of unrealistic dream and focus on the people that matter, suddenly all of those other pieces fell into place and all my other dreams came true.
Amazing. Well, it's great advice for anyone who happens to have heard that, and have a great show tonight.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you, and come back to Montreal.
I would love to. Thank you. I will be back lots, and thank you for having me.
Okay, terrific to see you.